Hi, my name is Chris Ebeling. I'm one of the partners of Panorama. I run a digital consultancy agency called Beyond Horizon. It's my pleasure today to present to you our first online skill base for young professionals, where I interview Leon Monschauer, a former student, a young professional. He was one of our participants in Next Gen Labs in 2024. And Leon is, a technical artist who really specializes in problem solving. In this conversation, we talk about what it means to be a young professional, tips and tricks on how to gain entry, showing your work often, being visible, being a problem solver, being adaptable and agile, and a lot of other cool stuff, a lot of other cool stories from Leon's journeys, from my journey. It's around a 40-minute, 45-minute listen. Um, Unfortunately, it is more of a listen. There are no visuals. And after the recording, I just noticed that my face is clipped off. So you're not going to look at me that much. That's why I'm doing this video as well, just to do a little intro. But you will see Leon talking. And, it's more of an audio listen anyway. So let's see if the editing team does any magic. But if they don't, it's a listen. It's a good listen. It's one that we hope will help you, inspire you, motivate you to do that little bit extra and send you on the right path to start your creative and digital journey. Hello, Leon. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Leon, and the surname is Monschauer, or Monschauer basically. I don't know how to pronounce it in English. I'm a freelance motion designer currently, and I live in Cologne. My field is mostly focusing on 3D, a lot of interactive work, real-time stuff, and also art installations or sometimes advertisement, but that has gone down in the last years because everything has gotten very interactive and very real-time. So yeah, I'm always shifting a little bit on my current and actual profession because the landscape's shifting so much.
That's something worth talking about, right? Like, what does it mean? How can you stay agile and nimble with such a shifting landscape? You mentioned everything's going real time now. There's also this thing called AI. I think there's this there's this inevitable change happening all the time. What's the advice for young professionals, for students like, you were a student, how many years ago were you a student?
3 to 4.
Yeah, 3 to 4 years ago, and now you've been, in the industry. And what's your advice to young professionals and students coming out?
I think because of the landscape is always changing, it's not really about jumping on the hype train, but taking from what's currently mainstream what you're interested in and honing it and getting better at it. And I'm not talking about specializing in anything. I'm talking about more like this is a current trend that fits in my work style or my interests, then I'm gonna capitalize on that. Or if that's a trend you're not interested in, then maybe wait for the next trend. So it's really difficult because there's always that approach of waiting until something gets relevant or hoping that the thing you do is not getting irrelevant. But I think everything has a certain relevance when you're good enough that other people want you on the project to provide that skill or that like work part.
Yeah. Could you give us an example of like what trend skill that you were passionate about that you decided to kind of hone in on and helped, help your career?
Yeah, I came from a lot of offline rendering with Houdini and mostly Redshift, and I was like not fed up with it, but I got a little bit tired of always waiting for like actually seeing something. So I got more into Touch Designer and Unreal Engine because they let you see something more instantly, and by chance these tools got more relevant in the industry. And so my skill set has diversified in a way, but for me, it's not about using these tools because they are currently mainstream, but it's because I like how they function. It's very systemic, and it's a way to build a structure and build something that can be maintained and can be further developed. And so it's a little bit lucky that my interests fit together with the current flow of the market or like the flow of the industry in a way. But I think it's not totally exclusive to people who are into technological stuff. You can also be artistic with it and like stay on the surface level technical wise, but yeah, like getting to see what you're actually doing while you're doing it was really fun for me as a change, because I was very used to waiting for 30 seconds or a minute for the simulation to cache or the render to load, and that got really slow for me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I must say, like, and this again, just kind of reset the room a bit as well. Like the whole point of these webinars, these little podcasts, this interaction with you and this conversation is really to help open young professionals' eyes to new. Hopefully we can inspire them, give them some insights to what it means to get into the industry, what's an easier way, how to adopt, how to stay agile, what trends to navigate. I think something, and I think not just because I work with Epic Games and I also used to work with Unity, so I'm very agnostic when it comes to these technologies. And you're mentioning touch designer as well. Blender's also going more and more real time. Like they're really trying to finesse into that space as well. Like the whole idea behind real time engines is really to help empower creativity, right? So we can get to an end result quicker. We can see what we're working with faster. Not playing. I think I heard a great quote, and I think actually my boss at Epic talked about this. She mentioned that when you're doing like an offline rendering, it's like playing the piano one note at a time, right? You kind of like you do some changes and you go bing, and then you wait, and then you do
Yeah,
some changes, go bing, and playing in Unreal Engine or in Unity or something that's more real time that gives you instant feedback is now you can play multiple chords together and you can start putting your music together, your creativity together much faster. So I guess for the people out there who are animators, designers, modelers, even coders, all artistry is needed in the real time space as well. So the advice there is, of course, jump in if you haven't opened up Unreal Engine or Unity or something like that, Blender. Jump in there. These are competencies that are needed, and get your feet and hands wet, because I again, without knowing where the industry is going, I think it's pretty safe to say by looking in the last 10 years that we are shifting into a more real time space. And again, we're not getting less digital. I would say the world is
yeah.
only getting more digital. So I think that's a really good thing. But to kind of like let's break in. So what does the term like young professional mean to you in today's digital entertainment landscape?
I mean, it's really difficult because being self-taught is a very normal thing in our industry. So being a young professional, I think mostly boils down to not having the routine or like the call back to, oh yeah, that was a bug 5 years ago. They fixed it, but maybe it came back again, and now that's the problem why this is not working. So I think for me, or Markus Heckmann from Derivative, the people who do Touch Designer, I talked to him how they classify how good someone is, like teaching wise or with Touch Designer, and he said the moment you can help yourself solve a problem and you're not reliant on other people or like maybe even the internet, but that's totally fine, then you become advanced or even professional because you see a problem and you can solve it by deducting and thinking about it. And I mean, not everything we do is about problem solving. Sometimes artistic stuff is very explorative and finding something where you don't even know what's to find, maybe even. But, for me, it's a lot about not getting totally lost the moment you get put on a task and needing help left and right, maybe. But that's a little bit also coming together with showing initiative and getting yourself out there, just like trying to swim.
I love that. I was going to say initiative. Initiative is one of my favorite words. It's one of the things that we look at in employees when we employ them. Like when working in either a feature film where you're 400 people on a movie or even a small studio. Initiative is something. It's one of those human skills that everybody looks for. There is a balance to be struck. Of course, you're not coming in to fix everything. You're going to find problems everywhere. But those problems that you sit with, whether you're an animator working on a shot or someone coding and trying to fix a bug, being able to like not ask for help straight away and actually try to solve that problem yourself. There's the internet, right? There's probably chances are if you have a problem, there's 100 other people out there with the same problem, right? And so you got to be resourceful, show initiative to jump online, find out, whether it's through a Reddit page or a dev forum or wherever the case may be, could be a YouTube tutorial that helps you solve this problem, and then be able to put that back into your work. That's a huge advantage, and something that I definitely would say, that we look for, problem solvers. Our industry is always, we're always pushing the limits of technology, whether it's creative that's trying to do something with a program that it's never done before, right? And I think that's what's so awesome with engines like Maya or Unreal Engine. Like these programs, these DCCs and these real-time engines, they're designed by technical people, not by creators per se. So what they rely on is creative people to come in and start breaking and using the tools in a way they didn't even think about, right? So there's this beautiful kind of circular feedback loop from creatives to technical, and then technical people go, yeah, that's great, let's make a tool, right? And then and build that back in. And that's how the industry's always been going. So I think awesome with the initiative point and self-learning, self-starter, self-motivation. You have to have these things when you get in there, of course. And we love what we do, right? Like it's I hate to say it, but I don't want to say it like that. Like you do it because you love it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we're lucky that we love it, right? We love making stories. We love making beautiful imagery. And I think that's part of also the passion that pushes us to want to fix problems when we see them, right? Like that helps motivate us when we're working.
I mean, the thing with that is it's always a push and pull. Like the moment you want to take something seriously, you sometimes stop enjoying it because you're taking it too serious. So it's always difficult to find that balance of liking it and wanting to do it, but also having to do it because it's your career path now. So for me, it's also important to reflect on that and be like in a conversation with yourself if this is currently because you want to do it or because you have to do it, and then adjust to get into the mental or even like actual position job-wise or in the situation in general.
And let's be honest, like there are some times on the job, even though we're in the industry, that we're asked to do things that we really don't like doing, right? Like, and that's part of the process too. That is part of earning your stripes. Even some of the greatest animation leads I've seen them have to work on things that they really didn't want to work on, but they understand that that's as long as the good outweighs the bad, you're okay, right? And you also got to be grateful for being in the moment, right? And understand that nothing is always perfect, I think. And so you're gonna earn your stripes. You're gonna do things. Speaking of which, like, what are some realistic entry points for new graduates or junior talent in industries like gaming, VFX, and animation, like in our industry?
For me, it's pretty difficult to say because I was freelancing while studying and then just like stopped studying and did more freelancing. So it was rather not that different to me, but I think it's really important to like show your work. And I'm not talking about doing overtime or spending the weekends to refine your portfolio and perfect everything. It's more about showing what you're currently doing and continuously showing that, because I personally don't like it that way, but that's how the landscape currently is. Social media is so relevant and so important in getting the word out, and just posting something you're working on really helps that people get the feeling that you're actually doing something. Because for the last years, I've been very absent on social media and I've just like did my stuff and didn't show it to anybody, probably how creative people worked hundreds of years ago. Then I started to kind of sweep my backlog and just upload once a week what I've done, sometimes even a year ago. And people I already knew approached me and were like, oh, I really like that one. What did you do there? And I was like, yeah, we talked about it, but I think it didn't stick because I didn't upload it, I guess. And I just like documented my creative stuff in a very sparse time. I spent like a few hours every week to prepare something, but it really helps to to start the conversation. And I think in today's landscape, even if your portfolio is not the totally most polished portfolio and you're just starting out, showing that you do stuff on the side tells people that you are always trying to create new things. And I think that's important too. Like, showing that you're interested is sometimes more important than showing that you can do good work.
100%, 100%. And this is something that we often talk about as well, is like, you'll see, you'll get CVs in, you'll get, applications in, job applications, and you might not have a job ready or a position for this person now. But what you love to see is, of course, a year later that they've improved, right? That they actually haven't just gone showed the same show reel the next time they apply, because that, of course, shows us that, hey, all right, no, I thought I did this and this was enough, and now that if I can't get a job on this, then that's it, right? Whereas, again, it's a constantly evolving industry. You got to stay, you got to sharpen your axe, you got to stay up to date with the latest tools. And like you said, it doesn't have to be the perfect show reel, but what we want to see is improvement. We want to see that you understand that your eye is getting tuned, right? We are a visual industry, right? So visuals matter, whether it's a Houdini simulation or a beautiful animation or a beautiful model in ZBrush with great topology. We care about these things. That is the work. So being able to show that is absolutely important. So again, echoing on what you're saying, my advice to young professionals or students out there: you need to have a LinkedIn. You need to have a LinkedIn because that's where there's a lot of potential job offers and the potential employees, and where you can see also what the trends of the industry are. 2 is you need to have a portfolio, whether it's an art station or your own blog, whatever the case may be. It could be, like you said, like your own Instagram, social media where you post stuff. You need to show your work, and you need to not be afraid. 2 things there. One is you need to show what you're capable of. It is a visual industry. 2, you might get feedback to improve your work. You might actually create conversation with other professionals out there that go, hey, that's cool, maybe you should do this. And you get unsolicited feedback, but constructive feedback. That's what this industry is about as well. It's about iteration, right? If you saw my first animation reel, Jesus, and to where it became now, but that's only because I had the right mentors, leads, and people giving me feedback, honing my eye, honing my skills in that industry, right? And so if you're not showing your work, how can we give you feedback? So there's another thing that we talk about in industry as well when we're working on projects: show early, show often. Like if I'm working on a project, let's say it's a 3-week animation project, I want my artists to show me their work as soon as they have something, because I need to be able to see if they're going down the right track, right? If they wait 2 weeks and show me something there and they've gone down the wrong path, the wrong performance, then we've wasted 2 weeks. This is why we have things called dailies. We got stand-ups. We got these kind of systems in place and procedures in place in the industry to make sure that we're always keeping an eye on the work. It's not to micromanage. It's just to make sure that we're not going off course. And changes happen. Sometimes the direction comes and we have to scrap a shot and change a shot. So show work early, show often. Get yourself a portfolio. Get yourself a LinkedIn. These are the areas that are going to expand your web, expand your horizon, and give you more opportunities.
Something that's like a little bit obvious maybe, but not totally obvious, is also be a nice person. Like if you sometimes I get the feeling like I'm very interested in communicating openly and transparently also about wages, and when I don't have time, I don't try to secretly slide something in and spend the time elsewhere. I try to communicate very openly about that, and I have the feeling that people appreciate that, and they want to see where they stand, and they don't want to feel disrespected, and that's how I want to be treated too. So if I say I will treat you nicely, I will treat you respectfully, then I can also expect that for myself to be treated that way. So it's like I was saying, it's a little bit obvious, but it goes a long way. I think it goes even a longer way than having a good portfolio too, because when your portfolio is okay, but you're really good to work with because you respond frequently and, like you said, show often, show early, you do all the like communication stuff nicely, then people can count on you, and a delivered shot is better than a not delivered shot. So
You're absolutely correct. I mean, I have stories, and you say it should be obvious, right? And it's the cardinal rule of life, really, right? Treat people how you want to be treated. But you'll be surprised with stress and some people just have this entitlement, right? Like, just please be humble, be nice. We have a rule, and I think I mentioned it to you at Next Gen Labs as well. But this is a rule that my old animation mentor actually told me, or supervisor. He said, turn up on time, deliver your work, and don't be a dick, right? And if you can do those three things, that's like the cardinal rule in any industry, whether you're working at a bakery, at a coffee shop, selling cars. That's the same rule. Turn up on time, be punctual, be reliable, deliver your work, be accountable, and don't be a dick. Like, be a nice guy. Be somebody who people like and working with. And I totally agree with you. Like, I was not the best animator. I was never the best animator, but I was hired back to projects over people who were better animators than me because I think, or I'm pretty sure, because they enjoyed working with me. Because I created good culture. And if you're humble and you're nice and you're somebody people want to work with, you create a great environment, then people are happy. When people are happy and in a good environment, they create great work, right? Good people, good environment creates great work. And so you can be a part of that equation too. So totally agree. The human skills, the soft skills, super key. It's not always obvious. I've seen people end their careers in rooms where they just took direction, getting feedback from a director and answered back the wrong way. And you just never saw this person again, right? So you got to understand, like, we're working on something together. Be humble, be open to criticism. Again, it has to be constructive criticism. It's not just, oh, you're shit. It's, hey, this could be better because X, Y, Z. Take it on board. We're always learning. We're always adapting. Hey, just to kind of shift lanes a bit. So what's one of the things you wish you knew before entering the industry? Like, what's something that you didn't know that you know now that you wish you had known when you came?
I think it's not entering the industry, but during my studies, I did a bachelor's for 3 years and then a diploma for 2 years. And only in the diploma, I realized that accomplishing every task that I'm given is not the goal of studying or going into that industry. Like, it's important when you get assigned a task in the industry that you have to do the task, but when you're studying and when you're finding out what you want to do, it's not about fulfilling every project. And even as a freelancer, I always struggle with the people request something from me and I'm not the perfect fit, but they asked me, so maybe I can make it work. But I over the time realized that if I'm not the perfect fit and I know the perfect fit, then I should forward them there, and then they get happy because they got a nice project, and the other person is happy because they found someone that is a good fit for the project, and I have time to find something else I'm better fitted for. It's nothing I would say I would do all the time, because it's also very like privileged to have the option to not accept every project, but I always think about it like a multiplication on a project. So when I can't multiply the project in a good way because I'm not really fit for it, then everybody is having a bad time because I can't deliver what I want to deliver. I'm frustrated because my work is not on par with my expectations, and the others feel that probably too. So for me, it's important to see what my skills are and what I'm able to accomplish or achieve in a project, and then realizing when I've reached the limit or when I overextended into something I can't keep or can't deliver on, and then being honest about it, because maybe someone else is better suited for it. So it's very difficult to weigh that in a good way.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there is actually quite beautiful, and it's super humble as well. Like, if you're not the person for the job, but you know the person for the job, and you hand them over to that person, I mean, hopefully, and I would think so, because you are a really nice guy, Leon, that will come back, or you pay it forward, right? So, and that's also a really nice way of thinking about it. You do something good for someone, eventually that will come back. And they will also respect you for that in the future, right? The employer will, A, for your honesty, B, the person you're helping out. And, you don't necessarily always see that, which is really really great. So I think that that's going to come around and pay dividends, I would say, because you're showing like a good character there as well. Um, cool. So I mean, we've touched about a lot on some of these questions I'm going to ask, but I'm going to ask them anyway. Just what technical skills are currently in demand across the industry at the moment? You know, and we've talked about the hidden soft skills, which seem obvious, but let's start with like technical skills. What are you seeing out there?
I think currently it's very useful, but not every person is like that. If you're able to establish interconnected systems in a way, because everyone wants to have the full roundabout experience. We want a 2x4 meter LED screen, and then there is a QR code on an iPad, and then you have the AR game on your phone, and then there's also that pamphlet you can take away, and in there's also some more to scan, and all of that has to work together, be designed in a coherent style, and also probably be able to pivot 3 days before delivery because someone decided they want to have a car instead of a truck or something like that. So being able to structure and overlook huge complex setups and systems and building it in a way where you can think in the future, like building a system where you can change the corporate colors easily or out simple stuff without doing a lot of like detail work in there, because it's more like a framework. And for me, I've realized that a lot of projects often end up in a framework by accident. So you can begin to plan it as a framework beforehand, because one thing is certain, that nothing is for certain, and you have to be flexible. And the more flexible you think, the better it is in the future. But it's also nothing you can always do, because sometimes like building future-proof takes time. So you have to weigh if you have the time to build it like that, or if you have to do it rough and dirty and make it done fast, or what's your like current situation. But I think that's something that's very in demand, because there's so many multimedia applications that can be done right now, and the industry wants to do them.
You're definitely speaking like a Houdini guy. Creating procedural networks that can easily be tweaked, which is great. I mean, and that's a great hindsight too. It's also something that we've seen in our research. So again, in establishing Panorama, we based that on some really important industry research where we reached out to over 300 people on the global scale about what are the in-demand skills. And on top of that was Houdini, Unreal Engine, real-time applications, Houdini, procedural applications, and then of course the human skills were at the top of that as well. So speaking from a technical standpoint, creating these systems that are easy to iterate projects is definitely something people want to do. Companies are looking for, but they're, like you said as well, they're also looking at a multimedia like approach. It's not just for 16:9 on the screen. It's for a mobile device. It's for an AR device. It's for a virtual reality experience, et cetera, et cetera. And again, this is where these game engines come into play, because once you've built something, let's say in Unreal Engine, you can now tell stories really nicely to a pretty damn high fidelity. And now you can incorporate it with some tweaks. You can now get 60 frames per second in a mobile game or in an AR experience, right? So now you have this multimedia, multifaceted approach, which of course benefits the employer and benefits the business, which is great. We talked about this as well, but let's just make sure that we hit the nail on the head on this one. How important is being a team player in the creative industry and in the tech industry, and how can you as a young professional demonstrate this early on?
Being a team player in the industry or like in a professional environment is really important, like obviously, because it's a team effort. There's always this thought of the social media guy with the 80K followers just doing their own work, and then they are getting all the projects. And sometimes I get the feeling they don't want to have projects because then they need to work in a team and they are more of a solo person. But if you want to work in the industry, then you have to work in a team, and then you have to have to work together in the team. And for me, something I've realized that goes a long way is not like uh, doing someone else's task or something like that, but thinking about who's before me, who's after me in the pipeline, or who's
Yeah.
around me in the project, and what do they need from me, and what do I get from them, and how can I tell them how they should prepare it for me, because it's like really obvious when you're getting a project file and it's not totally cleaned up that someone has like no clue how to work it. And so comment the stuff you're working on, name the stuff you're working on, and think about it. Like totally obvious thing is forgetting to talk which resolution it will be in, or which
Yeah.
frame rate it will be in, which color space the EXR sequence is exported in, and then you import it wrong and export it wrong, and then down the line 5 days later someone is like, well, the colors are off, and then someone somewhere fucked it up. So just make sure you're not the person, because you cover your bases on communicating before you and after you to know what you're getting and know what you have to
Yeah.
give to someone.
And I'll tell you what, this is why we show early, show often, right? If you show it early and this is why we have things like daily stand-ups. Hey, what are you working on today? Okay, I'm working on this, blah, blah, blah. Oh, can I just ask about anything that's holding you up? Yeah, actually, what color space are we in? Oh, we're in this LUT. Oh, okay. Then you can change that. Now you're on the same page. Like, there's reasons why processes are put in place. So I think for a young professional, I'd say get familiar with what a daily stand-up is, what dailies desk rounds are, what dailies in general are, and weeklies. These are moments where everybody sits together and watch other people's works, not just because, oh, I got to watch somebody else's work. It's to see, the consistency, what they're doing as an animator, as a rigger, as a modeler. You can see what other people are doing and how they're approaching their work. You can learn from the feedback that they get from a director, and you're there observing that feedback. Then you've gotten free information now to when you do your work, you don't have to make the same mistake or get the same feedback. You can skip a step, right? So there's actually huge value when you have 20 artists in a room looking at someone get feedback, because those 20 people can learn from that feedback and understand the direction of the director or the designer or the creative who's in charge. So absolutely important.
Yeah.
Communication, like you're saying, communication is key. Don't be afraid to ask questions, right? This is one thing that's also, I know that young people are very afraid to ask because they think it makes them look silly. My number one rule: there's only one question that you should be. There's only one silly question, and that's the one that you failed to ask. If you
Yeah.
ask questions, there's chances are there's other people in the room that have the same question, and you're doing everybody a favor. Again, you're showing that you are a team player. You're showing that you don't care if people look at you and think that's a silly question. Who cares? This is for the project. This is for the greater good. And like you said, being a team player, like you are a cog, you're a piece in a big wheel, in a big machine. 400 people make a movie, right? Where do you fit in? What are your specialties? What are the departments around you that rely on you? Understanding the whole process, the pipeline, and where you sit in it, super important. So that's
Yeah.
great.
And there's always something that's not like obvious. On one of the projects I've recently worked on, we were working on a LED wall in 4K, and they did padding around the final output of 100 pixels per like side. And so when you get footage delivered, then it's not even 16 by 9, and you're totally confused because the padding is not aspect ratio conforming. And then you're like, okay, this is, how do I put it even in here, because it's not aligning anyway. And then you have to figure it out by asking around, because you can't figure it out by yourself because it's not making sense. So
Yeah. And how could that have been avoided, that situation?
I mean, when we talked in the beginning, we said 4K because the whole project will be built in 4K, but the final delivery will be padded. So I don't think you could have thought about that in the moment, but
Okay.
in the moment it came up, you have to like
You
raise
gotta,
your arm and be like, this doesn't make sense, someone explain. So
yeah. Well, then, hopefully the next project that's similar, the same mistake isn't made right now. Then you learn from those kind of mistakes. And I think that's also a really important note is it's okay to make mistakes. I think our whole industry, the whole way we innovate and create, sometimes beautiful work is actually by happy accidents. We make mistakes, we break things, and then that strengthens us in the next project, right? We then develop processes around these mistakes and, whether it's a FAQ list or a standard process list that says, okay, when you're importing a file, you do this, 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 and this to make sure that we're all in the same LUT space or in the color space or frame rates. I think that comes from making some mistakes. So to the young people out there, it's okay to make mistakes. I think the problem is if you make the same mistake 3 times or 4 times, the same mistake all the time, then that's where you need to kind of have a reality check and go, okay, what am I doing wrong here? Like, I need to learn from these mistakes, right? We win some, we learn some, but we adapt, and this is where we get better, right? And that's through mistakes and through taking risks is also where innovation comes from, but that's a whole separate talk. So in a rapidly changing, we've touched on this, but in a rapidly changing tech landscape, how can juniors, like young professionals, stay relevant and like keep up to date? What would your advice be there?
I think experiment around with stuff. You don't have to go in depth too much, but you have to have a rough idea of how stuff works. Like sometimes projects get initiated in a way of we don't even know how to solve it right now, but we will figure it out along the way. And as long as you have some surface level understanding of things, you can say like, I have a surface level understanding, and we can together go in depth across the project timeline and learn more about it. So for example, I was working on a project with a robot arm, and I have no clue how to work with robot arms, but there are simulators where you can send them data and they move around. And then I played around with it a little bit, and I was like, well, that's not too difficult. And then the devil's in the details. Along the project, there were a lot of hurdles, but we grew with the project to get it solved. But in the beginning, there was this moment of like, well, can we make a robot arm work or not? And it kind of felt like we can, because there is some knowledge about rigging and some knowledge about how to rotate stuff around stuff, basically. And that's very simplified how a robot arm operates. So
well, you can work it in 3-dimensional space. So why couldn't you work it in real space, right? Like and tie those two together. They are relevant. But this is great. This is learning on the job, right, and growing on the job. And I think that is the beauty also of our industry. Like you said it really nicely. Sometimes we jump into projects and we don't know how we're going to solve it, but we will. We'll figure it out. Whether we were working on Guardians of Ga'Hoole back in the day, which is this owl movie by Zack Snyder, and it had this amazing feather systems, and they hadn't completed those feather systems. That feather system was generated throughout the project and just kept getting better and better and better and better. And it's still one of the most prettiest feather systems I've seen, and that was almost 15 years ago. So learning on the job, super important. What are ways that young professionals can take advantage of this, like learning on the job?
I mean, I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly.
No, so we're talking about how learning on the job is important, and what are ways that we can take advantage of these opportunities. I can answer it if you want, but it's.
I mean, I think it's more of I'm a little bit confused of the how can they take advantage of it?
Yeah, how can they make the most of these learning opportunities?
Just be there.
Yeah, what I would say is so I'd say curiosity, right? Be curious, always be curious. Like always ask, be keen to see what lies beyond. Like, why are we doing things like that? I think there's nothing wrong with showing in curiosity. I think that's also where we spark this kind of always be learning kind of mentality. If you're just there and you're kind of like, no, I'm just doing my work, that's cool. But I think to take advantage of these opportunities around you, seeing what other departments are doing, what other people, if somebody's doing a cool Houdini sim over there and you're not in Houdini, but you could ask questions. I usually, read the room. If it's a tight deadline, don't bother people, please. If you see them sweating over a keyboard and they're staying late, that's not the time to ask a question. But you meet them in the kitchen or something like that. Then you can ask them, hey, I saw this thing you were doing. What was that about? And people we're always usually love sharing the craft that we're doing and the work we're doing. And that's a way to kind of always, learn on the job. That's free information. story, the way I got into the industry, and this might be really relevant to people there. I actually started out in like junior comp doing roto. I went through a roto traineeship. But once I got into the industry, then I was surrounded by animators and I knew I wanted to animate. So then I would go and ask them questions when they were ready and show interest in that field of study. And I learned so much just by doing that. So there's ways to navigate that when getting into the industry and how to always stay curious. And I think that's one thing that's always, and I've never stopped being curious. That's why I've, done entrepreneurship things with, things like blockchain and AI as well, right? Like there's always some new tech out there, whether it's hardware or software, that's super interesting to play with. Um, just moving forward, like and like broadening the horizon a bit, like beyond gaming and VFX, beyond the entertainment industry, which is of course is a favorite for many young students. What are some, other digital sectors that need these creative skill sets?
I think what's often overlooked is the music industry, like music visuals or interactive installations that play on the intersection of visuals and audio, because that's something that has a huge overlap with
Mm,
the VFX or movie industry, because we basically use the same tools even, and it has that additional layer of having the interaction of two fields, because in the movie or VFX area, audio or music in general is often an afterthought
mm,
in the worst case, and the thing that reacts to the images in the best case. And in my opinion, it should be a conversation between those two. And
yeah,
in the music field, that's even sometimes turned around, where the music is the driving factor and the visual world follows behind. And that's a very interesting thing, because you can work with people together and have that conversational part of creating something in reaction to something else that's also created. And that's really cool to
yeah.
work in that way.
Yeah, I just, funnily enough, I just posted on LinkedIn last night because I finished a game. I don't usually get to play games, but I took a little break and got to play this game called Gris, Gris, by Nomada Studios, and it was absolutely fantastic. It's built in Unity. It's 2D. It's like 2D animation style, like so stepped frames and beautiful color palettes, beautiful journey and beautiful story, and the music just ties it all together. It's just such an emotional journey. So for anybody out there, Gris, inspiring. The artwork's insane, but to get to your point, the music was that's what pulled on the heartstrings. Without the music, you wouldn't be as emotionally involved with this story, and that's the same with most movies as well. I'll just add, like, beyond music and the creative industry space as well. What I'm asking is about wider areas where technical and creative skills are needed. I might throw some in there. In the real time space, for example, engines like Unreal and Unity are used for architecture and visualization, urban planning. It's even used for automotive industry as well as the aerospace, medical simulations, training simulations, et cetera, right? I think the point there is that once you have a competency which is three-dimensional, once you have these skills here and you understand real-time engines, now you have such a broader scope of opportunities for employment. Yes, it might not be the next Pixar movie. Yes, it's not the next Rockstar Games either, but it's a place where you can still hone your skills, and it's a place where you can actually learn on the job, learn new technical and creative solutions while still, being paid and having a job. So I just really can emphasize the point there that these our skills as creatives and technical artists are really needed across a much wider range of industries at the moment, which I think is really important for young professionals to know. And it doesn't mean that when you go into one of these spaces that you can't come back, because they are cross gender. People from Epic are hiring people in from other industries and vice versa, right? So I think that's really important, that just because nothing is permanent, like you mentioned, the only certainty is the uncertainty, right? And I love this quote, which is nothing is permanent, nothing is finished, and nothing is perfect, right? Like those three things are like true. Perfection is in the eye of the beholder. We never finish something really. We have to make it good enough for the deadline, and then permanency. Things change all the time. Um, So another question, how are new technologies like virtual production? You mentioned you were working on some. Was it a virtual production shoot you were working on? No, just a
It's for a venue thing.
oh, for a big venue. Yeah, okay. So but let's just get into that then. How are technologies like virtual production, real time engines, or even AI, creating opportunities for junior and younger talent?
I think the way where opportunities are created is not because of the like applications of the tools like virtual production or something like that. It's more the accessibility that has shifted so much in the recent years when I started, and that's like not long ago. It's basically 10 years ago, when out of school and starting to get into all the animation stuff more. There was basically After Effects, Maya, and Cinema 4D, and I mean there was Houdini and there was Blender, but it was not widely known and not approachable for a young person without any clue of anything there. And then I got into Maya and had the worst time of my life and thought 3D wasn't for me. And then I started with Cinema 4D and Houdini and everything. Like I felt like a weight is falling off my back and
Awesome.
I can finally do what I wanted to do in a way. I mean, I wasn't good at first or at all in the things, but I was seeing that there is possibility to work with it. And that's the same currently. You just basically need a computer and you can download all the tools that are also used in the biggest productions and across the world and in huge venues and everything. And you can right now in your living room or in your bedroom or in your like office space just start with it. And that's really it's not really leveling the playing field in that way that you can also realize these productions, but you can learn skills to participate in the game. So that's
Yeah,
something I really think is pretty important currently.
I love that accessibility. Absolutely, and also with the internet, right? Like, I mean, uh, you have so much free knowledge out there. It's really a matter about putting in time, right? Like you said, you can download a real time engine for free, and you can go and watch a tutorial for free, and you can start learning the basics and building up your skill sets. It's really about having, the motivation and the discipline, right? And and those again, it comes back to those, initiative. Having those human skills is really what defines us as artists and creators. So I really love that point. Um, Finishing up, because we're coming to the end, which is beautiful. So thank you so much. Looking forward, what's your best piece of advice for someone, for a student trying to make it into the industry?
I think it's good to concentrate on an area to be like the expert in it in a way, not like in the world, but in your current environment and in your personal perspective to it. Because, and I'm not talking about getting or becoming a specialist. It's you can still be a generalist, but you have to find the one line you can sell someone you're good at. Like me, for example, I always tell people I'm good at solving problems, and it doesn't matter if it's in that program or not even in a program at all. I arrive somewhere to solve problems, and that's what I can do good because I like doing that. And that way I keep the door open to not specialize on any program or any like part of a pipeline, but
Yeah.
I can generally concentrate on getting good at problem solving and like collecting a lot of knowledge and writing my own documentation for stuff, so I can often go to people and like, oh yeah, I know of that problem. I heard of it before. Here's a write up you can maybe even reference right now, or I send you some links for it. And that's something I just realized over the years, that it's not really saying like I'm the simulations guy or I'm the texture guy. It's more like I'm the guy, whatever. And then become that person and present that way that people understand why they need you in a project. And there is so many areas that are needed in a project. I think everybody can find a place somewhere, but I don't see the reason to just say I'm only doing texturing with that program. It's more about like why do you like doing texturing and why should it only be that program? Maybe you can be flexible in some points to widen your pond where you fish in or something like that.
I love it. Leon, the problem solver. That's amazing. And finally, where can people find you if they want to hit you up, or if you want them to hit you up?
I mean, my name is, I think, seen here somewhere, and
Yeah.
it's always my name.de, my name, and then on Instagram or something like that. And yeah, people, if they have questions, can just reach out.
And it's Leon Monschauer.
Yes.
Nice. I saved it for the end. Leon, thank you so much for joining this online SkillBASE. You've been awesome. Really appreciate the work you've done. And yeah, thanks for sharing your experiences with us. And we'll be in touch soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Thanks, buddy.
Have a good day.
You too.